Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back. We are going to talk about things here that others don't usually dig into. And one of those is a part of life when somebody passes. She's given us so much insight from her perspective as the owner of two amazing funeral homes in New Jersey. And this is Deceased and Assist with Geraldine Oliverie, who is the owner of Oliverie Funeral Homes in Manchester and Jackson, New Jersey. Geri, welcome back. How you doing?
Good. Glad to be back. How are you doing?
Very well. Today, we got two guests that are going to offer their expertise and guidance on a subject related to their fields. Interesting subject. Tell us what that's going to be today.
So we're going to talk about cadaver crimes, and I have two guests. Both of them are my daughters. So the first guest is Dr. Bridget Henneke-Melton. She's an OB/GYN in England, so she's going to give her perspective as a doctor needing cadavers to learn on. And then the other one is my other daughter, Marissa Valinsky. She's an MS LPC, which licensed professional counselor, a national CC. She'll tell you what those are. Owner of New Path Therapy. So she has her own business for that part. So here's Marissa.
Hi.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you.
Bridget went somewhere quickly.
She's multitasking as always.
Okay. So just to give you like a brief introduction, I'm not sure everyone knows this, but the federal law, there is none against trafficking human remains and selling body parts. Because actually selling body parts is legal in 42 states. So the 8 states that forbid the sale is Florida, Georgia, Massachusetts, Missouri, New Hampshire, South Carolina, Texas, and Virginia. So the reference case that we're using is from Massachusetts. So there was a bit of a problem. Harvard didn't know they were doing it. Our attendant was actually taking the body parts to his house and then brokering and selling from there. So the lack of regulation comes from an old legal principle that no one can own a dead human being. Therefore, think about when you go to museums and stuff. Did you know that U.S. museums alone possess over 500,000 sets of human remains?
No
They buy
idea.
them.
Wow.
So those human remains that are real and stuff that you see in all the U.S. Museums and everywhere else, they're full sets, parts, whatever. They've been brokered or bought for, so it's like interesting when you think of it from that angle. So, like I said, I wanted to talk about more recently what was in the news. Harvard's morgue manager was accused of stealing and selling various parts such as heads, brains, skin, and bones. And Massachusetts is one of the forbidden states. So Cedric Lodge and his wife are accused of stealing these body parts, bringing them to their home and allowing body brokers to come in and purchase, and even into the college morgue. And Harvard had no idea any of this was going on. So they're saying we can't be culpable for this. But they have been soliciting donors for years, like all medical schools, right? They're saying if you give us your body, you donate it to our anatomical program or whatever, we're going to give you a public trust. We're going to take care of your loved one. We're going to use it for, furthering education and science and stuff like that. So there's this trust agreement we have. But the bodies that were being used, families are saying we'll get it back in 2 years. So I'm doing it for 2 reasons. One, I want to be altruistic. I want to donate my body to science because I think it's the right thing to do. That's how we got so far in medicine and stuff. And our doctors are so good. I want to help. Second, they're like, well, I really don't have money for a funeral. I don't want a funeral. My mom would like to donate. They're going to cremate my mom and she's going to come back to me in 2 years. So it comes full circle. I get her back. So it helps them. And that's why they give the free cremation, to help encourage the donation, right?
Mhm.
So that brings us to Bridget, where she comes in because she was part of the medical field and part of the schooling and the education and what she goes through.
So a big thing I think is, what does it really mean to donate your body to science? Is something that people just say, and it's like, what does that mean?
Hmm.
So it means that your body is actually going to be used maybe in gross anatomy labs in medical school, as well as surgical and clinical skills training for medical students and A&Ps, et cetera, to understand pathology and the course of human disease, so we can see the toll that it takes on each organ system with our own eyes, or to further biomedical sciences and technology, to help cure certain diseases or ailments. So specifically, we've improved cancer research, Alzheimer's and Parkinson's research, especially those two, because you need actual brain tissue samples to diagnose those diseases. Otherwise, it's just a symptomatic, diagnosis. Respiratory diseases, like COPD and emphysema, and diabetes research. Donated bodies have also allowed us to refine surgical techniques like heart transplants, medical device development like pacemakers, robotic and arthroscopic surgery practice. So those are minimally invasive techniques, and spinal surgical techniques. So those are incredibly important and dangerous surgeries that you don't want to be practiced on a living human for the first time. So we do these on donated cadavers. And this is not to confuse those who are organ donors. That's completely different. So on your license, it says organ donation. That is a live donation. They need the organs, still well perfused and very healthy. So that's different. The most common, of course, would be kidney, heart, and liver transplants. So in order to go to the many schools in need of body donations, there are really difficult applications that have to be submitted and updated yearly for acceptance. You could be rejected for many reasons, including hepatitis, HIV, etc., any sort of disease that you could pass on in a lab. So it's actually pretty difficult to donate your body to science.
Mm. I obviously we knew that cadavers are needed in medical research, but never knew, what's going on and how this all works. And within that lies the psychological aspect of this too, right?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the donors in the news for the scandal was Adele Mazzoni, and she donated to Harvard for one very specific reason. She always wanted to go to college there and was unable to fulfill that dream. Harvard was her hometown college, and for that obvious choice, the donation made sense. So what does the family's emotional toll look like? These families, just like hers and others, donated their bodies to science for Harvard for scientific research, and they selflessly donated their bodies. They were devastated to learn that the morgue manager had been illegally selling body parts. This was meant to be a final act of dignity and contribution to science, and it became a source of deep betrayal and emotional trauma. Many families describe this as feeling violated, having to grieve not only the loss of their loved one, but now also the desecration of their memory. The institution they believe would honor this donation was shattered. Some reported anxiety, sleeplessness, even symptoms of PTSD as they had to process this disturbing reality. So for many, closure was replaced with outrage, guilt, wondering if they had made the wrong decision. And this scandal is leaving lasting scars on these families who only wanted to make a meaningful difference. So is this going to lead to a decline in donation? And the public's trust has been violated. How long will science and medicine recover? We don't know, but it will definitely take a toll, honestly.
Right,
So-
because many people are going to say, why should I donate my body to science? You just told me it's not illegal to sell these body parts. So what's my guarantee I'm not being sold and my mom is, not being, brain taken apart or skin going one place, a bone
Right.
going another place,
Mhm.
Where's the
It's-
protection in place?
Where's the protection? None.
Mhm.
And Harvard is saying, we didn't know what was going on. We're not culpable. But they sent letters out to thousands of families saying they don't know if they returned their mother or their father or their loved one back to them. They have not a clue who or what was given back to the right people, the wrong people, or anything like that. So, you have this meaningful ceremony with cremings and scattering and maybe out to sea or maybe a burial in a family plot. Well, now that's not what's there. We don't know. And it's very difficult to do DNA testing on cremings. It's all ashes. So our responsibility as a funeral home, like if you donate your body to science, our responsibility is to get you and keep you refrigerated within 2 hours or less of death so that what you're donating is viable. Now, They don't pay us for that. The family has to pay us to do that transfer to our personal funeral home refrigeration. And then we have to transfer you to that college or university. And then it's on a schedule. You can't just say, hey, here's the paperwork and blah, blah, blah. They have to go through the computer. They have to make sure they're still accepting this person. All the forms are in order, which could be 8 to 30 pages, like they were saying, and they're still acceptable, and then transfer to them on a schedule. So therefore, it's usually costs the family about $800 for the funeral home to do all this. So yes, free, but yes, there's a cost involved because we need to get you there. So we have to do the transportation. You can't do it, and you need our refrigeration, right? So the only real donors is like Bridget said with live donations, that's like the sharing network. So they do take from live and they do take from deceased, but when they take the skin, tissue, or bone from the deceased, they return you back to us and you have a funeral, and they give us a very small stipend for the extra work and time it's going to take to prepare you now for that visitation. If there is no visitation, there's no stipend. It's only if you have to put in that extra work for a viewing or visitation. So I don't want to confuse live donations with deceased donations or anatomical gifts of whole cadavers to colleges, because it's three separate things and there's small cost in some of them, right?
So
Some
for somebody concerned about their loved ones, there should be no concern, going to a funeral home unless you have elected to have your body or a loved one's body donated for this purpose. And I don't want to say, there's always a concern, but from what I'm hearing here, because of the laws, there is always a chance, I would think, that something could be sold. Is that possible?
Yes, because 42 states allow it.
Right.
42 states allowed it. And there are such things as body brokers. It's a legal job description. People
Unreal.
are body brokers. So it is what it is.
I mean, it only came out, right? Because the body broker.
It only came out because the one body broker who was doing it had his part of the household, and his wife had another part, and she was in a domestic violence situation. So she got a court order and asked him to leave, and he wasn't allowed to come back into the home. So she ventured over to his side that she's never done before and found all of this out and called 911 immediately. And that's how all this came to light. So how many other colleges don't know?
Right.
And this could have been going on for a long time.
Yeah.
Right?
Decades?
Yeah, it said
Wow.
about 20 years. Yep. It's been going on.
Unbelievable. Wow.
So that's a lot of bodies.
Yeah, and sadly, it's people doing the right thing to foster science and future doctors and nurses to learn their craft. So you're doing the right thing by donating, but then on the back end, somebody's doing the wrong thing, but legally, there's no issue.
Right. There's no issue. He only got in trouble because he took the parts from the morgue. So that was theft.
Okay.
That's where they
Right.
got it. It was theft because Harvard didn't give him permission, and he took what he wanted out of the morgue and then sold them.
Also,
And
Massachusetts, Harvard.
bans body sale.
Right. Massachusetts is one of the one that bans body sale. So, I mean, either way, I would think even if they were not, he didn't give that money to Harvard and say, hey, I sold this for you. I brokered it. Here's some money for your program. He took the parts, took them home, sold them, and kept the money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And if this happened in, let's say, North Carolina, where there is no law against it, no worries.
So they're probably already brokering what they want legally, and it's probably in their packet, and they're probably getting that money to the anatomical gift program.
And what are the chances in that situation in those states? What are the chances of somebody down the road getting their loved one back for cremation or whatever, burial? Probably nil, very
Nil.
low chance.
low chance or just parts of it, whatever was in, right? Whatever they,
If you're lucky after all of this, like
right.
I don't want to use the word cannibalism, but just like just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Wow. What your opinion of people after this story has broken donating um, cadavers for medical research? Do you think it's going to have a major impact?
I think it's going to have a huge impact on the medical industry, definitely,
Yeah.
for all the medical students in schools, because it's not just doctors, it's dentists too.
Sure.
For us, funeral homes, I mean, when I was in school, we were using the indigent practice embalming at Bellevue Morgue. So we need those things. I mean, sometimes there weren't enough indigents that donated or were retrieved, and we were re-embalming the same bodies, just looking for different arteries or veins or whatever, so that we can learn a different way. But yeah, if there's not enough, how are you going to learn? You can't get proficient at it without these donations.
Mm,
So I don't want to stop or discourage them. I think it should be new laws
yeah.
and legalities, and it should be put in, and people should be made to understand that, yes, in this situation for our college, it could be that we're going to do certain things, but then we're going to split it up, and this might go to a dentist, this part might go to a medical school, this part, you need to know that, you have to be upfront. People will gladly still donate if they know the process and they agree to it. It's the blind trust that we give to you. And if you don't honor that trust to the public, then I can't, right? So as long as you're forthcoming, what will take place, people will donate.
Do you think it will, because of this and the need for these bodies? Do you think it'll ever turn into where they can be sold and you make that decision? Like now there becomes a price on a body because now there's supply and demand. Do you think that laws would ever change where they can
I
be?
I think the laws won't change for the parts of how they're sold. I think it has to be regulated how they're sold. You can't sell to people who want to just, open a creepy shop. You're like, hey, you can buy a real skull, you can buy a real knee, you can buy it, that can't happen. I mean, that's just that part it has to be the sale and brokering is only from university to university for research, for stuff like that, not, to anyone for anything, because they're being brokered all over the world. If you look online, you will find the websites that are selling them. And you're like, where are they getting this from? We don't know, you know? So how do you keep track? It must be put that these people who donate their bodies should be there should be something that follows the body the whole way. Just like our cremations have to be tagged and followed to make sure you're receiving the right person and there's no
Mhm.
commingling. These bodies should be tracked from start to finish with a identifiable tracking or ID tag that can be with them. And you just like you can follow the dolphins and the sharks and, be, oh, look at that, they're here today. You should be able to track your mom.
Mm.
Why not?
That's a great point.
We can
And
put those chips in pets.
thank you. I was just thinking the same exact thing. Exactly. Yeah. Why
Why
not?
can't you put them in cadavers? And they should be tracked. So I could say my mom is at Harvard.
Right.
Her chip is here. Now I know there are loopholes and ways around it, and people, if somebody wants to do a crime, they'll figure out a way. But
Yeah.
let's not make it so easy.
Now, on the funeral home level, there you have protections built in. You're very careful about what you do on the back end. There's nobody can get their hands on, Aunt Millie or anything like that.
No. So our everything we have is passcoded. You can't get in and out unless you have the passcode. You work for me. if you get fired or leave, your passcode is wiped off. You can't get in. If we have to, we change everybody's passcodes.
Sure.
So can't get in. And then if we go to the crematory, the metal tag follows you. So, and there's one body per crematory, and it gets followed all the way through so that we know you're getting the right person back. There's tracking for all of that. Same thing, if you die at home and you're not marked, like we don't trust the next person coming in to be like, oh yeah, I picked up that person last night. That's so-and-so. That body is tagged at the house, name, date of birth, time of death, everything. So there's no mistakes. Oh, this body got cremated by mistake, got buried, wrong family, no, we can't take that chance. And most funeral homes all do that. They don't want a lawsuit. They don't close them. Most of them are mom and pops. They can't afford something like that to happen. They have to be.
I appreciate you and your daughters for bringing this to light. There aren't many people that would shine a spotlight on it, especially the owner of funeral homes. But this is why you're radically different. You care. You want people to know. And also that, protocols are taking place in your funeral home. But many wouldn't talk about this. This is very important. I'm glad we're talking about it.
That's why I brought it up. I think it's really important, and I think people should know. I don't think it should be hidden somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's not because I want to discourage it. I think the people should know. It's the right to know. They should know, and something should be done so they can keep tracked.
Well, the rest of us, we see this as a news story. We might not know the deeper details, and you can't Google it. We get it from you, which is, I very much appreciate it. And it's something to consider, and also that we could have a challenge in the future if people have an aversion to doing this just because of what's going on there. Mind blow that this is legal in most states. I'm no words. Wow.
Cement vaults came into play in cemeteries, not because the ground was wet or we want to protect your loved one, because of grave robbing. People, you bury them in their jewels, their fur, whatever, a wedding. That grave robbers were coming and opening the caskets. So then the locks on the caskets came. Then the cement vault, which you need a crane to open, So all these things came to play because of something. So now we have to do the next step, protect the anatomical gifts.
Yeah. Right? Wow. Appreciate it. Tell us how we find your website with all the details on the both homes you have.
So Oliverie, Oliverie, funeralhome.com, and you'll see both Manchester and Jackson in our restaurant, which is in Jackson, the Wisteria. You'll find it all on one website. And we're in Ocean County, New Jersey, and we serve all Ocean County. We gladly serve all faiths. So we're pretty popular. We're growing great.
Your funeral home is your home, and
I live above it.
I know, Marissa, you probably can attest to that. You grew up that way. Very unique. But that's the difference. There's a lot of funeral homes around the country being swallowed up by these big companies, which don't give you the personal touch. Sometimes they don't even answer the phone. Sometimes it goes to an answering service. You're lucky if somebody calls you back. When somebody calls you, it rings your person. They get you. It rings your phone. You might be sleeping. You might be cooking. You're going to get you, though.
You get me. Please hold. I got to get a piece of paper and pen. I'm not prepared.
But you know what? It's just like in the old days. Like I'm even hearing doctors now making house calls, which was done,
by us too.
40s, 50s, 60s.
Visiting physicians. It's back.
Right. Yeah. Call it concierge, whatever you want to call it, but kind of cool. Thank you both, all three of you, for being here today and all the insight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hi, this is Terry Crews, actor, former football player, game show host, father of 5, and all-around big dude. I'm also an expert on drama. I know all kinds of drama. There's the good kind that comes with having a house full of kids. There's the bad kind like season-ending injuries. There's the necessary kind like having an agent in Hollywood. And there's silly drama like the drama around my percolating pectorals. And And then there's the drama you can skip.
Skip the drama that comes with not having your high school diploma or equivalency. Find free adult education classes near you and finish your high school diploma. Visit finishyourdiploma.org.
Or text diploma to 97779. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop to opt out. That's diploma to 97779. And leave the drama to actors like me.
Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.